The cave breathed like an old village, passages folding into tunnels lit by bioluminescent moss. Stones hummed with ancient drafts and footsteps sounded like distant drums. We could almost hear plans forming in the echo. Let's move closer and see what stirs down here. Moving on to introduce who lives in these tunnels. In the main cavern lived two ash-colored rhinoceroses. The first was named Ash, lean and quick-eyed, his ash-gray hide dusted with pale lichen like battle paint. The second was named Cinder, broader and slow to smile, with hands that gestured like a gentle blacksmith. We learn them as a pair who finish each other's observations and sometimes don't finish each other's sentences. I will listen to their voices now. And so the rivals will soon appear. From the further arches came a flash of coral light. Two coral-red rhinoceroses arrived, their hides a bright, unsettling coral that made the cave feel smaller. They called themselves Coral and Ember, sharp in tone and quick with schemes, like wind that pushes a candle out. They set a different rhythm in the cavern, and the air tightened when they spoke. The scene is set for collision. Now a strange problem appears above ground. High in a shaft, a domestic cat refused to come down from a thin, root-framed tree that grew inside a vertical cavern. Word had spread through a shaky found-footage clip taped on a slab of rock, a hoax stitched with dramatic music that said the cat would never descend. A human Italian pizza chef tossed pizza dough in the air behind a distant stalagmite, his motions rhythmic and unnoticed, a slice of strange normalcy. The cat's refusal became a legend. People debated whether the footage was real or a trick. The problem pinches, characters take sides. We move to how the coral pair decide to act. Coral and Ember whispered a plan in choral tones. If escalators in the cavern's trade tunnels were turned into slides, movement would become chaos and their influence would swell. They wanted to remake upward paths into downhill spectacles so merchants and citizens would slide right into their hands. The idea gleamed with mischief and practical cruelty, an elegant tweak to leverage power. The scheme began to ripple. Tension tightens, the cat still won't come down. Next, the everyday conflict becomes urgent. The core trouble was simple and absurd. The cat wouldn't come down from the tree. People tried coaxing, offering fish, and setting nets, but the animal clung to a higher branch that swayed like a pendulum. The found footage hoax made some villagers think the cat's position was sacred, while others said it was staged. The stalemate grew into a community concern. The tree became a public symbol of stubbornness. The attempts to unstick things continue, and so do voices around the problem. A disagreement blossomed between the Ash pair about whether the penguins that live by the underground lake gossiped. Ash thought the penguins loved a good rumor and that their chatter made problems worse. Cinder argued that penguins were quiet stewards and that blaming them eased human guilt. The small argument widened like a hairline crack in stone, and old friends felt the tremor. The cave listened, so did the coral pair. Opinions hardened, and the slide plan remained a ticking gear. Now a brief detour interrupts the tale. Before we continue, if you enjoy this story, please like, subscribe, and comment the single word slot below so the cave records your name. A simple word helps our little community here keep count and laugh when the day ends. Thank you for listening and for being part of the cavern's audience. Now back to the plot. Coral and Ember put their plan into motion with slick hands and stone tools. They greased axle shafts, rewired the old escalator stones, and set playful signs pointing downwards. Markets slid, laughter turned to skids, and people who trusted the coral pair began to fall into their new routines. The coral pair watched influence curl like steam from their palms. The cavern's motion changed, the cat in the tree watched, unbothered. The protagonists moved to remedy the situation. Ash and Cinder tried to fix what they'd watched be altered. They set ropes, built gentle ladders, and formed support teams to coax the cat, but the slides had changed traffic and every rescue attempt turned into a circus. People who might have helped were sliding past, the ladders couldn't find purchase. The Ash pair's hands were full, and their efforts, though earnest, kept missing the cat's perched patience. Fall back and rethink, they told each other. Things got worse before they got stranger. Tension between Ash and Cinder grew because of the penguins again. Small resentments accumulated like grit. Ash blamed idle gossip for the misinformation that amplified the hoax, while Cinder blamed hasty action and a lack of patience. They spoke past each other in the cavern, their voices tight and brittle. The argument threatened to split their team right when unity was most needed. The cavern's air hummed with the potential for rupture. The next turn brings a strange contact from the dark. A shimmering craft dropped into a side chamber and its light spilled wrong across the stalactites. For a moment everyone assumed rescue or revelation. The first contact was clumsy, a transmission of chirps and odd symbols that the cave's improvised translator misread as reassurance. Instead, the translation garbled the coral pair's intentions into a formal blessing for their slide scheme, and the newcomers reacted by supporting whoever seemed in charge. Suddenly Coral and Ember had allies in strange shapes, and their influence became official. The balance tipped badly. The protagonists search for a weakness. In the quiet after that chaotic first contact, the Ash pair watched and observed small things the Coral pair overlooked. Cinder noticed that whenever Coral and Ember moved through the old trade hub they hesitated at revolving stone doors. The Coral pair seemed to misread the rhythm and became disoriented. It was a tiny, human-like flaw, too much swagger, not enough patience with simple loops. The Ash team smiled at the find and began to plan how to use it. The next scene is where the plan unfolds. Using patience and gentle choreography, Ash and Cinder lured Coral and Ember into a narrow circuit of revolving doors in the old hub. The Coral pair entered with bluster, then faltered as the doors spun, losing their swagger and their coordination. While distracted they were disarmed, not by force but by their own inability to navigate the slow, circular rhythm. The community retrieved control of the escalators and nudged commerce back to steady pace. The Coral pair found themselves gently boxed in by the very architecture they'd tried to bend. Victory leaned toward the cavern's caretakers. The cat's moment neared. With the coral threat neutralized, Ash and Cinder returned to the tree. They built a careful scaffold of ropes and patient steps, and Cinder hummed a low song to soothe the cat while Ash offered a bowl of fish in a respectful, expectant silence. The cat blinked, considered the sudden calm, and then climbed down as if deciding the world was safe again. The found footage hoax lost its power, the tree stopped being a symbol and became just a tree once more. The community sighed, relief held like warm stone. Their work done, the cavern changed subtly in them. Now they settle and look inward. Normal returned slowly. The escalators moved steadily again, the found footage posters were replaced with hand-painted murals, and the penguins by the lake resumed their quiet ways. Ash and Cinder sat on a ledge above the market and spoke softly about the argument that had almost split them. They admitted impatience and pledged to listen more. The cave had changed them, they were less quick to blame, they practiced new patience and a softer curiosity about gossip and why it forms. The community felt a little wiser. The story closes, almost. A short note before the cave's doors close. All slop in this story were generated using AI. This is a straightforward disclaimer for clarity and nothing more, an acknowledgement that some playful elements and phrasing came from an algorithm. The story stands as a shared tale about kindness, errors, and the small hardware of community. Thank you for joining the underground circle. The lights dim slowly now, and the cavern hum goes back to sleep.